So first of all, I wanted to just say thank you to all of you for two things. One, for supporting us at Dreamforce and being customers or in some way interested. And secondly, for showing up at 8 a.m. In the morning for the first session after, the myriad of parties that I know went on last night. So I am thrilled. So my name's Brent Floyd. I look after the manufacturing vertical for the ISV team here at Salesforce. So my partners build applications that we typically sell to manufacturers. So things like ERP systems, supply chain, inventory management, a lot of the back office processes that some of you probably deal with on a regular basis. So as far as the session format, we're going to have a panel discussion. So I'm going to let each of the speakers, I'm going to do a quick intro, and then they're going to sort of do a one-slide overview of their business to give you some context. Then we're going to jump right into a panel discussion, and I'll kick it off with a few questions myself to get everybody warmed up for the day. And then there'll be a mic out in the audience, and you guys can go ahead and fire some questions as well. And the speakers were also kind enough to offer to hang back outside the room after the session if you want to, catch up with them or you didn't get your question asked or whatever, so that they can interact with you a bit. So quickly starting with introductions. To my left here is Rob Goldies, the general manager for Scott Fetzer Electrical Group, which is a division of Berkshire Hathaway. Rob. Yeah. So Rob joined back in 2013 as a general manager, and he really oversees the entire business, including the technology strategy there. Prior to that, Rob has a long history of working in manufacturing companies, with the president of a company called Permco that builds hydraulic equipment, and has a BS in electrical engineering from Florida University and an MBA from Duke. Sitting next to Rob is Ohad Edan, who's the senior applications manager at ID Systems, and actually there we go. So Ohad has 15 years of experience working in operational functions and IT, spent the last 8 years at ID Systems, and the last 5 really owning their end-to-end Salesforce deployment, and he'll talk a little bit about that today. And he inherited a Salesforce deployment that wasn't widely adopted at the time, and has done a lot of work to increase the adoption over there, that he'll talk a little bit about that. And then next to Ohad is Ali Moshfeghan, the COO of Extreme Lashes, joined in June of 2013, and again oversees the entire business operations, quality control, warehouse, IT, programming. I don't think there's much that Ali doesn't touch in that business. And prior to that, worked at Chevron Phillips in the chemical products area for 7 years. And we were talking about this earlier, but Ali has a BS and an MS in chemical engineering, which I was an English major, so for me that's pretty impressive. So each one of these gentlemen here is using a cloud ERP system to run their business that's built natively on our platform, but we have 3 different vendors represented up here. Rob leveraging Canandy, Ohad leveraging Rootstock's ERP system, and then Ali on the end leveraging Ascent. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rob to get us kicked off with a quick overview of his business, followed by Ohad and Ali, and then we'll jump into the panel questions.
Well, good morning, everyone. So Scott Fetzer Electrical Group is what used to be 3 distinct businesses under Scott Fetzer that all have electromagnetics as part of their core product offering. So we make electric motors for companies like Hewlett-Packard and consumer appliance companies. We make electrical power products for neon signs and some on-road trucking applications. And we make all that stuff right in the middle of Middle Tennessee, made in America. And when I joined the company, what I found was we had, with the same issues that a lot of, American manufacturing companies have, or at least small to mid-sized ones, is that they're outdated, right? Their systems are outdated, how they make things are outdated. And so we've spent a lot of time implementing technology in the back office, and also in terms of how we interface with our customers, but also a lot in terms of automation on our shop floor, a lot of robots and automation. And the next step for us is making those 2 things talk. So robots talking to our Salesforce implementation. I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Rob. My name is Ohad Edan. I work at ID Systems. We're a technology company in northern New Jersey. ID System is a technological software hardware solution for the logistic industry. And we make what my colleague here in the audience likes to call Big Brother for forklifts. So we have a hardware solution that gets installed on industrial vehicles and allows businesses to control who can use them and when, as well as once they do, what they do with them, and really increase the efficiency of the operations in their facilities. We also have a solution for on-the-road tractor trailers, rail cars, tracking, and finally a third product line which is used in the rental industry, car rental industry, to be able to track and really make sure that really in the end of the day it's all about billing for the rental companies, make sure that they accurately track what their users do with the vehicle and are able to bill accurately. ID System, I mean, I've been in ID Systems for 8 years. I started actually in the operations department and kind of dug my way into the IT side. And we've inherited the company through an acquisition. We actually were forced into an Oracle Financials ERP, which is an on-premise system, very big, very complex environment, and I've inherited managing that environment. And we've been trying for a while to get out of that. As we'll talk in a few minutes, we found that Cloud ERP is actually a very good solution for us to migrate into. We have an extremely customized version of Oracle Financials, which makes it basically impossible for us to upgrade to the latest version. The version we're on has been already end of life. Support is very difficult. And the cost for just keeping this system up and running is tremendous in terms of resources to keep it up and running, and in terms of just the hardware and infrastructure costs, and requiring a DBA, requiring a developer, requiring all the resources that just manage that platform. So hopefully I'll be able to tell you a little bit more about why we did that and how we're going through this.
I'm very confident you'll be able to.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Ali Mashbegan. I work for Extreme Lashes. I just want to thank everyone for showing up on 8 o'clock on the third day of the conference. It's really good to see a lot of operational folks at Dreamforce session. I'm going to venture that there's not a lot of marketers in the room, right? Any marketers? So it's fantastic that we're getting operational folks engaged. Our company, Extreme Lashes by Joe Miceli, we're in the market of delivering products and services for the semi-permanent eyelash extensions. The top picture above shows the kind of before and after. It's a luxury service where lashes are individually extended by a trained professional. If anyone is interested, go to extremelashes.com. Find a stylist. Obviously, most of our customers are female, but the gentleman in the room, for your significant other, getting your spouse a appointment through our Find a Stylist page is one of the best gifts you can give to your spouse, and they will love you and they will look gorgeous. So after the shameless sales plug,
that wasn't in the dry run.
So our company was co-founded by an incredible woman, Joe Miceli. She runs the business. So just to correct Brent, she runs the business. I just support her. Our mission's been to enrich and empower lives by delivering on our promise of providing revolutionary products, incredible service, and comprehensive education and support. We were founded in 2005 by Joe Miceli and her family. We do both B2B and B2C, so we provide products and education to the stylist in the field that is actually doing the application. And then we also retail the compatible cosmetics, eyeliners, mascaras, concealers, directly to the consumer through our e-commerce site. We run an inside call center. We don't have any outside sales reps. Most of our business comes through referrals. We're known in the industry as the best education, best support, best service. We have about 60 employees in Houston, Texas, the capital of eyelash extensions. We sell training, which is delivered any given weekend around the country. We also have over 1,300 SKUs. As you can, well, you might not imagine this, but the eyelashes are very unique to each individual person. Your lashes are different than someone else's, and we try to give the stylist a variety of lengths, thicknesses, and curvatures to customize the extension to look either very natural, very bold. So we carry a lot of different lashes and compatible products. We've trained 36,000 stylists worldwide. We're in 26 countries and counting. The reason we moved to ERP is that Joe really had a vision for having a holistic system for our business operations. We had kind of grown into several different systems, one for lead management, one for sales, one for inventory, one for forecasting, one for service. And she wanted us to be holistic and encourage cross-collaboration. So we started looking for something where we can do all of our business on. And we moved to Salesforce. Actually, we started Salesforce as our ERP platform. Prior to that, we did not have it for our sales and marketing. So we've been implementing Salesforce from the back, doing the ERP financials. We've been on Ascent for about a year now, since last September. And we're in the process of deploying other features of Salesforce.
All right. Thank you for that. So with that, let me kick it off and get us started with a few questions. And Rob, I'm going to start with you. You guys had an interesting story in terms of the process of going about moving to ERP and sort of how you thought about doing that vis-a-vis the existing system that you have today. So tell us a little bit about your thought process in moving over.
Well, first of all, I guess I'd say that every business is unique, and every business wants to believe that what they do is special. You don't understand our process. We have something unique, right? And I've worked at a number of different manufacturing companies, and everybody says, you don't understand, this is unique. And so first, you got to sort of throw that out, right? Because there's 80% of what you do is the same as other businesses, right? You take orders, you process orders, you make stuff, you ship stuff, you pay vendors. But no, our stuff is unique. So we spent a lot of time early on with Conan, their implementation team, as well as Mountain Point, a partner that we used, and we mapped out a lot of our business processes, tried to understand what we could do on Salesforce, what we could do within core Conan ERP, and we actually threw out a lot of the old ways we did things. And trust me, we're part of Berkshire Hathaway, right? So there's a lot of audit requirements and things like that. But over time, one of the businesses was literally a 100-year-old business of the three. You build up a lot of, we always do this, we've always done it this way, or we do it this way because of this. And they don't really dig in and understand the core reason why you do something. And the biggest reason I heard is we have to do this because of audit. We have to do this because of audit. So we really tried to reinvent how we're doing things and map those processes onto what we could do, not what we used to do. And so we've streamlined a ton of things by making this move because it forces you to rethink how you do things. And if you go into a project like this saying, I'm just trying to map what I used to do onto a new system, don't waste your time, right? There's no point. I mean, the point is to rethink what you're doing and map it into, modern tools.
Yeah, no, thank you. So Ohad, you had the added complexity of being a public company. So talk a little bit about your experience in getting started and how that sort of figured into the equation.
So first I'll touch to something that Rob said is that, yes, we do something unique. So when we started our search for replacement ERP, before we even zoomed in, zeroed out on Rootstock, one of the questions we kept asking ourselves is, we cannot be that unique. It can't be that we have this super customized system and that's the only way to do the business, to do what we do. So we really were looking for some system that has as close as possible to out-of-the-box capabilities to do the things that we need to do. And yes, I mean, ID System is a public company, so that adds a lot of requirements in terms of compliance. So, SOC compliance and SOX audits. They just add this level of complexity where you need to make sure that the products you use are certified in many many of these certifications, and accounting is obviously a very critical part of this. So that really made our search and the due diligence required to make the selection a very long and arduous process. But the other thing is, we have been using, as Brent mentioned in the beginning, I mean, I picked up Salesforce 5 years ago, and it was very, very specific use case in our company. And as I started to learn what the platform is capable of and started to find out that we can really automate a lot of business processes, we started to kind of deploy automation throughout the organization. And we got to the point where about 2 years ago, we went from probably about 20% adoption to close to 95% adoption, where I would say that about 95% of my Salesforce users log in daily and use the system to do what they need to do. And we aren't even live with our cloud ERP. So once we go live, we expect the adoption to even increase further. One of the other things that was really important for us is another thing that Rob touched on is this holistic view. Or was it you, Ali? Sorry, Ali. Yeah. And we use Salesforce for so much of what we do in our business already. How cool would it be if we can get an ERP system that lives on the same platform and allows us to create this really tight integration, automation, and just really increase the efficiency of the system by being able to tie cases to orders or notify customers when things happen, and really give our service people visibility into the entire life cycle of this customer from the first moment we talk to them throughout the entire sales process and service. So that really kind of created a really interesting use case for us and really drove us towards the cloud ERP. And we ended up going up with Rootstock ERP, which just was a very featureful application that did a lot of those things we did. And they actually worked with us very, very closely to make sure that all of these things that in the past we had to develop, they can add into their package, they can add into their product as something that they can offer also to other customers. And by that really takes the burden off ID system to maintain it, to make sure that it's compatible with future versions, because now it's part of their ERP offering. So they will continue to develop and add features, and they will continue to support it as they release new upgrades. So for us, that was a very, very much a win-win situation.
So Ali, you, in terms of the order of things, you had a little different way Extreme Lashes went about it versus Ohad here, who started with CRM. So tell us a little bit about the process you guys went through, the thought process, and then also just sort of move into sort of my second question, which is what surprised you along the way, along the journey.
As far as the decision process, we had a really, just like Ohad, a really old, outdated ERP that wasn't supported. It was end of life. And we started looking at ERPs, and we were like, okay, if we're going to get an ERP, we want it to be holistic. We also want to do sales and marketing in it as well. So we just started looking at complete solution platforms, and just long process. Salesforce stood out head and shoulders above the rest. As you all know, it's very flexible, it's very dynamic, and we found really good solutions on there. We were happy with, we looked at different packages. We selected Ascent, and we throughout the implementation, I think, surprises or learnings. One of the things, as Rob mentioned, is that doing this process, it really challenges you to look at your processes. It's almost like moving from one house, your old house to a new house. You start moving your furniture, and you're like, do I really need this? Should it really be this way? And especially when someone from outside, your implementation partner comes in and starts asking you, well, why do you guys do it this way? And you have to explain your logic, and you find out there's some things that you should be doing differently. So that was a very, I think regardless of what you choose and what you do, just the process of migrating ERPs is it's going to improve your operations tremendously, because you're going to be re-examining everything. So that was a learning. Surprises, so not being Salesforce experts before Ascent. We were just surprised how quickly people learn Salesforce. I have just a couple of developers. We don't have a large team, but they hadn't known Salesforce or Apex or workflow, but quickly they were in there with the implementation team implementing things, and it just went a lot smoother than I thought. We went from, I think we started on June 1st and we were live. We had migrated all the financials and warehouse and scanning everything on September 5th of 2014. So it just went really quick. So those are some learnings for me.
So Ohad, tell us a little bit about, in terms of your journey, what surprised you, along the way? You were, a big unlike Ali, you were a big CRM customer before you took the ERP journey on, so it might be a little bit different for you.
Yeah, it was a little bit different. I mean, unfortunately, unlike you, Ali, our migration and implementation process is a lot more complex, just because we have a lot of integration with vendors and just a lot of in-house processes that are managed by this system, and a lot of as I said, we had customized. And we had to work with Rootstock to get there on their package. But I guess what I can say is the real big surprise is that even though I was very, very familiar with the platform and its capabilities, as we started to integrate the ERP, it was really amazing to see how you can still leverage all of these features that come with the platform, anything from workflow, process builder, approval processes, and a myriad of other features that allow an admin to create really surprising functionality, or sometimes you have to venture into development to do things, but still it was a lot simpler than I expected to create a lot of this automation and increase efficiencies in processes that were always manual for us. And we're not a big public company. We have about 100, 120 employees, and while I definitely had the entire organization behind this project and everybody supported me, the majority of the work was done singly, just me working with Rootstock and doing a lot of these things. I had some help with, Rootstock has a great implementation team, and now they work with a lot of implementation partners as well, but still we were able to do a lot with relatively little resources. So I'm not saying that you find one person in your company and he's going to take care of your ERP migration, because it's never as simple as that, and every company has its own complexity. But I do think that you will be able to take on a project of this magnitude with less resources than you would need to use for a similar integration or implementation on an on-premise application, because just by the nature of the beast, with an on-premise application, you need infrastructure, you need hardware, you need people to maintain it, you need DBAs, you need developers, you need people that make sure that networking works well, and Salesforce takes all of that burden away from you. So yes, it comes with a cost, but I think that from an organization perspective, it really allows you to invest your resources in value-added activities and not spend time on things that you just need to do to be able to do those things. So for us, it was a very fun journey, actually, because
you don't hear that associated with ERP implementations very often.
It was just always surprising. It was just always to the point where we have this thing that I know is going to be very difficult to do, and then Rootstock coming back and saying, well, actually, maybe not so difficult.
That's good.
So it was always surprising and always challenging.
So Rob, you made an interesting comment about how this sort of, lit a fire from a creative perspective, within your organization. So, talk a little bit about sort of that experience for you.
Yeah, so for us, I guess first of all, when Brent asked me this question ahead of time, our journey's not over, right? Once you implement, you're not done. And you're running your business on it. We've been running our business on Commandi for about a year now. But you're constantly, and this is the benefit of the platform, right? You're constantly iterating and making small changes, singles, think baseball, right? You're making singles every day, every week. And it sounds kind of silly and cliche, but it's no joke. I mean, people will come to you with little ideas and things like that. But the turning point for us was, Anytime you do an ERP implementation, doesn't matter if you're doing something on Salesforce or otherwise, it's like open heart surgery for your business, right? So expect that, the patient's on the table, you're about to go live, you're sewing it up, and hopefully the heartbeat comes back. And so, I guess a couple things that surprised me, right? We had a 4-month implementation, which sounds short. I think it could have been shorter, right? And I've had discussions with Conandi about it since. Nothing that anybody did wrong, but it could be compressed. There's no reason why it has to take 4 months even, at least for our business. So after we went live, we did a hard cutover. We weren't running 2 systems or anything. We said on this date, this is the schedule. We're going live, and the first couple of days, it's almost like chaos in the office because. People just, you can do as much training as you want. People don't remember, now they've got to use a mouse instead of remembering Shift, F5 tab to get to that screen, to print something out, to then go file it and pull something from that file cabinet. And that's it. So there was a little bit of chaos because things were different. Once all that settled out, you start on this path where the users start to bring, and this was when I knew that we had hit the turning point, users start to bring you ideas. They start to bring you ideas and say, hey, can we do this in the system? Do I still need to file this paper in that filing cabinet, or is it okay if I just scan it and attach it to the sales order or purchase order, whatever? And you start to get these you see these little things that may seem insignificant, but when they start bringing you ideas, hey, on this list view, is it possible to see this too? Can I get a chatter notification when this gets approved? And all those little singles that happen every day, you start to build that momentum within the organization. And so that was what surprised me.
So talk a little bit, just continuing on, Rob, talk a little bit about, sort of the hard metrics that you saw move as a result of doing this for your business.
So I always hate this question because anytime you go into any presentation where it feels like someone's trying to sell you something, they want to talk about ROI, right? ROI is this, and if you dig in and try to figure out what does that really mean? Did you really save money or not? So in terms of hard metrics, I guess the 2 things that I can say is that we have in our purchasing department and in our customer service order entry, processing sales orders and stuff, in each of those areas we have 30% less heads. And there's no doubt it's because we're on Conandi and we're on Salesforce. We can do things without all the manual paperwork. But aside from that, right, aside from the hard metrics, we're saving people time. And when you save people time, they can do things that matter. And so little things like, just a couple months ago, we did some work so that we can track within Salesforce and Conandi, we can track on the water inventory, specifically to what's in what container, what bin, what container number, when it's coming in, things like that.
You need that system solution.
So now that we can do that, we're saving the buyer that bought the stuff from overseas, the raw materials from overseas, we're saving him hours per week. Well, what does he do with hours per week? Now he can spend more time working or finding new suppliers or getting better deals or contracts or things like that instead of doing manual work. And so everywhere aside from what people like to talk about hard metrics, in every single area of the business, we're saving people time. When you save people time, they're going to make fewer mistakes. They're going to do more value-added work.
So Ali, you guys had some pretty firm benefits that you have seen. So why don't you talk a little bit about sort of your experience in terms of the metrics that are important for your business?
Sure. So just kind of, I couldn't agree with Rob and Ohad more. The human efficiency that you gain, a lot of that is not absolutely measurable. Mm-hmm. You can't put it on the chart, but I would argue that Salesforce is a very collaborative and social platform, and operations actually is more collaborative and social than sales and marketing, because your operations team is constantly working together, having to communicate, and the Salesforce platform is very powerful for that. But as far as hard metrics, we want to stay in stock. We're B2B, but we're almost operate like a B2C, where we don't require our customers to place orders ahead of time. You place your order, we ship it overnight, second day, whatever you want. So keeping 1,300 SKUs in stock with a limited warehouse space is very challenging. So one of the things that we've done with Ascent is, with better forecasting, real-time inventory, we've gone from in-stock rate of 99.5 to 99.8. And those 0.3% don't sound like very much, but they could make a difference between someone going online, not finding the lash that they want, and going somewhere else, or staying with us. So that was very important. We implemented the Ascend mobile scanners for when we pick, pack, and ship. So the worker has to actually scan the barcode before it goes out. That's something we didn't have before. And that's really helped us reduce our error rate. Our shipping error rates were about 1 every 2,000 lines, and we're pushing 1 every 5,000 lines. At least that's my metric for my warehouse manager. But he's getting close to that. So that's a significant improvement. Just having the traceability of seeing, all right, who sold it, who picked it, who packed it, who shipped it, and if it was a assembly, who assembled it, what time did they assemble it to? Just having all that traceability is very powerful in improving the quality of your service.
So Ohad, I know you guys are pre-go live, but you already have some insights here in terms of what you expect and what you're seeing. Why don't you share a little bit of that with us as well?
So yeah, I mean, ID system, we're on the cusp of going live. We're about 2 or 3 weeks away from that, and you know, while I can't share any metrics because we haven't gone live, you know, one of the challenges we've had is, you know, because we've taken so many of the manual processes and automated them with Salesforce. What ended up happening is that everybody has to work in 2 systems, right? Everybody has to work in Salesforce for all of these cool automated processes, but then we have to use our ERP system, and that one is an old train. We can't connect anything to it. So a lot of data entry in 2 systems, a lot of duplication of efforts. When we started the journey of implementing Rootstock, we went through our business specification and requirements, and you know, as I started to get familiar with Rootstock and the capabilities of what they can do, I am the kind of person that goes around the office and says, "Oh, don't worry, in 6 months you won't have to do this." Nobody has to do this anymore. It's fully automated. So people have been hearing this for about 8 months, the entire time we've been doing this implementation, and everybody's been very skeptical. And then about a month ago, we did a pilot where we got everybody on our sandbox environment, and everybody got to do their job for 2 weeks on Rootstock. And the response was the response was overwhelmingly positive. I mean, people have been. I've gotten people that came to me and said, you know, I can't believe how this system is going to change my life. We have a purchasing manager who's responsible today to handling purchasing for our ID Systems company in New Jersey, for our child company in Texas, and for our subsidiaries in Germany and in London. And just handling between those transactions between the companies is a super manual process, and it requires us, you know, we're actually using 3 ERP systems, one for the UK company, one from the Germany company, and one for the 2 US companies. And he spends hours a week just, you know, okay, I need to go in here and do this, I need to create some kind of document to record what we need to do between the 2 companies, and we've worked with Rootstock, and we created a fully seamless process where he goes, first of all, it's one system for all of our companies, which is tremendous change, both from, you know, end users, but also from financial reporting and so on. But we created a seamless process where all he needs to go is say, okay, I'm now working in the German company, and create a sales order for a customer, and everything happens fully automatic from now, where we had probably a 5-step where 5 people needed to do activities just to get an order for a customer loaded into our system across the different organizations. Now it's a one-step, one person clicks a button and it does everything together. So this is just one example for one process out of about probably 15 or 20 processes that we're creating such a significant change, where people used to spend, and just like Rob said, I mean, people spend countless amount of hours just doing things that add no value to the organization. They just copy it from one system to another. They need to translate from one system the way it's written there to another system, or they just need to do things in many different steps, and it just increases visibility, increases efficiencies, and gives people time to think about, you know, what can I do more now that I don't have to spend 20 hours a week, I can do it in an hour. it's a great improvement for us. And
gives people time to go get some eyelash work done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, Hi. Thanks for the plug.
So I think there's a mic. Is there a mic out in the audience? We're going to open it up and let the audience ask some questions. Go ahead, just until we get the mic. Go ahead.
Sure. SEC, not as big of a concern as FAA for us and our rev management and our engineering documentation. Are you guys using a separate system for that and syncing that rev management to Cloud ERP, or did you find it good? We use Agile today. Do you have a good solution within Salesforce for that, or are you still handling that externally?
So I can actually address that because we use Agile as well. We use actually a very old version of Agile that has no connectivity. You can't plug it into anything. And we were able actually, Rootstock has some capability with the revision management, but not so much document revision management. And that's something that we have a real need for. So what we ended up using, we took Informatica and we were able to plug in directly into the Agile database. Took a little bit of reverse engineering because you're not supposed to do that. But we were able to really take a lot of this information from Agile and update into Rootstock directly. So again, just in terms of efficiencies, now we manage our new product introduction, new part numbers all in Agile, and now those automatically flow into Rootstock, and that's a tremendous time-saving activity for us. But there are some revision management and document control application for Salesforce. We decided not to take that project on right now, but just because of the scale of what we're already doing. Ideally, from my perspective, I would love to get Agile banned from our company and find either a way to use Rootstock and maybe a little bit of additional customization, or maybe eventually a third-party solution that can handle this and put everything on the platform. I mean, I'm a big, I keep joking that I'm probably one of Salesforce's best unpaid salesperson. I'm a huge proponent of the system because I see the value every single day that I go to work. So that's really my answer. I mean,
Well, I can also say you'll be happy to know that the people who originally built the Agile product are now building a native PLM solution on Salesforce that should be out later this year. So it's called Propel PLM. They're not exhibiting, but they are here at the show. So yeah, so I mean, these are the guys that built the Agile product before Oracle bought it, and they decided there's a better way. Yes, sir. Right now. So the question was how it compares to sort of a big SAP implementation and sort of from a cost perspective. If you guys, who wants to take that one?
Well, we didn't run a big SAP.
Actually, Rob, you're probably a good guy to.
We didn't run a big SAP either. I mean, we had an on-premises system that ran on an AS400, but so I'm only talking about what I have heard. But I mean, it's a fraction of the cost. I mean, time and money.
I can.
You came off.
Ohad
came off of Oracle, so
we're using Oracle Financial, which is it's not SAP, but it's not far from that. And it's funny. We had a conversation yesterday, and Brent, you said something that struck a real nerve for me. And I think with a lot of these old ERPs, what you find is that they come to you and they say, well, this is how we think we should do it, and you can say something like, yeah, we do it a bit differently, and so their answer is going to be, well, you're doing it wrong. Right? I mean, you have to change your process to match the application. So I think that in a lot of those new ERPs in cloud, specifically, and on Salesforce, just because of the nature of the platform, you have a lot more freedom to customize it relatively easily to what you do. And in terms of the cost, I think the licensing cost is for our Rootstock and Salesforce environment is higher than what we paid for Oracle Financials. But once you start factoring in infrastructure cost and resource cost to maintain it, DBA, again, developers, so on, we are actually seeing a reduction in the cost for maintaining our ERP. Probably a factor of about 30% reduction in cost, and that's right off the bat. So we don't know yet exactly how this will translate into additional future savings, potentially, but you have to look at the whole picture. You can't just say, okay, I pay, whatever, $100 per license on Oracle, and I pay $1,500 per license per year, on Rootstock or Salesforce. You really have to look at what are the other impacts this is going to create in the rest of my organization and infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of the key factors in vendor selection for you guys?
So the question was key factors for vendor selection as you went through the process.
Okay, I'll take that one. Are you talking about between the ERPs on Salesforce or Salesforce and non-Salesforce?
ERPs
on Salesforce. So we looked at, and all of us looked at, I'm sure, all three, because Rootstock and Ascent and Kinandi are the top three. Let me say, I don't think there's a wrong answer. A lot of times depends on how your business fits the strength of each ERP. For us, we just looked at it and we saw that Ascent fit our business better. Again, had more out-of-the-box functionality, the warehouse scanning, the production work order assembly, the lot tracking. That we do a lot of perishable products, so eyeliners and mascaras have shelf life, and so being able to track that and act upon it. So I don't think there's a wrong answer, but you just have to list out what your needs are and the feature list of each vendor, and see what's the better fit for you.
So unfortunately, we're out of time, but the speakers have kindly agreed to hang outside the room there. I know there were some other questions we didn't get to, so be happy to field some questions as they turn the room for the next event. Thank you very much for coming. You guys have a great last couple days at Dreamforce.
Good job.